Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on Swish City, where we're looking at the games from yesterday, doing our breakdowns. Wanted to get it a little bit earlier out today for you guys. Might be starting to get them in the morning, but we'll see how that works. But we'll break them down. We had four games on the NBA slate yesterday after a busy day the day previous. So let's dive in and let's look as six teams had their NBA debuts last night. So the first game to tip off and the first game we're going to be breaking down was probably the most boring game of the night, and that was between the Washington Wizards and Boston Celtics. And even though it was a blowout by 20 points, it was close in the first quarter where Jordan Poole was matching the Boston Celtics in scoring, where he was just hitting every single shot and working through the Celtics defense. But unfortunately for Jordan Poole and unfortunately for this Warriors, or not Warriors, Wizards squad, excuse me, they just could not keep up with the Celtics offense, and the Celtics used their size and strength to drive on these rookies in Bilal Coulibaly and Bob Carrington to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. The Celtics dominated in the paint versus this Wizards team. Early on, the Wizards were scoring more in the paint, but the Celtics in the second half and even in the second quarter started dominating and prioritizing scoring at the basket, where Jaylen Brown was the leading scorer for the Celtics team. But Jason Tatum also had a fantastic game, hitting threes, hitting mid-range jumpers, and looking like his jumper was still fluid like it was in game one. Derek White also stepped up big for this Celtics squad, delivering on both sides of the floor. And we even got to see some guys for the Celtics that we don't normally get to see, in guys in Xavier Tillman, Neemias Queta, Baylor Shireman, and Baylor Shireman got his first NBA basket last night. So big things for them. On the Wizards side of things, like I mentioned, Jordan Poole looked really good early on, but then kind of fell asleep later on in the game. And unfortunately for Jordan Poole, that's kind of how his play style is. He's a little bit of a microwave-esque type scorer, where he's going to get really hot super early on, but then he can kind of fizzle off. And as long as, he can kind of relatively stay warm, he'll be okay. And unfortunately for Poole, that just wasn't the case. He had 20 points going into halftime, and the scoring disparity on this Wizards team was pretty atrocious after that. And leading into the second half, we didn't see much after that. Bub Carrington did get hurt with a little bit of an ankle sprain, but was seen in practice today. And Bilal Coulibaly, their rookie from last season, looked really, really good on the defensive side going against wings like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He really impressed me on his defensive size and playmaking last night. Alexander Starr, their rookie, did not have the greatest game, but it was their season opener, and the Wizards are supposed to be a bad team. So I don't really have high hopes or high outlook for the Wizards, but it was good to see their team actually play and see them believe in these young guys. Next, we have our first of the doubleheader that was publicly broadcasted on TNT, and that was a Battle of Texas here. Similarly, yesterday we had the Battle of Florida. Well, tonight we had the Battle of Texas as Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks take on Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. And the Mavericks were a way to come away with victory tonight, and with their new addition of Klay Thompson, looked very, very solid as well. Klay was able to insert himself with the Mavs winning 120 to 109, and he looked solid. 22 points, six threes for Klay Thompson, shooting 60% from the three-point range, and Luka Doncic looking like himself, 28, 10, and 8, playing some solid defense as well. Maybe not the best or most shot making for him, but I like to see that. Jaden Hardy had 11 points off the bench, and Derek Lively, 15 and 11 and 6, controlling that big man spot in that paint for this Mavericks team, and adding as a nice secondary big man alongside Daniel Gafford, helping complement each other really well. For the Spurs side of things, Spurs, as we all know, young team wanting to experiment with Victor Wembanyama. He had 17, 9, and 1 with one block. Didn't look the greatest offensively from the field, missing a ton of shots. But this Mavericks team, were combating with Harrison Barnes was cash money, 70% from the field, 40% from three-point range, looking good early on. And Jeremy Sohan, 18 points, alongside Julian Champagny, who also had 18, 7, and 3, looking very, very solid for this team. And maybe it could be a piece for this Spurs team in the future. A name that not many people knew of, played previously with the Celtics on at the end of their bench, found a whole home in San Antonio after getting traded for Derek White, and has been able to, kind of get those benefits. Coming off the bench, we saw Stephon Castle have 8 points, Keldon Johnson have 7, Malachi Brandon have 7, but no really stood out from the San Antonio Spurs bench unit. Ultimately, the Spurs team is young. We know that they're going to be inexperienced. They already are dealing with one of their better players in Devin Vassell being out, so that's already a hindrance. But seeing them kind of compete against the Dallas Mavericks team, and with Wemby not having the greatest game, still competing, just gives you outlook and shine for this young Spurs team. And I think they're going to be one of the most exciting teams to watch this season. I think they're one of my favorite league pass teams this year. Just obviously watching Victor Wembanyama grow, but also seeing the pieces around him grow and seeing how Chris Paul can help out, seeing how these ample veterans can help out a player in Victor Wembanyama and kind of set the foundation for how teams should build around superstars and how they, should conduct it. Going out, getting veterans, bringing them early on, adding those shooters to help out your young rookie, and then ultimately, once those players kind of fizzle out and you already have younger players kind of coming in and rising in those ranks, those players kind of take over and you find newer role players. But for the Spurs, I think they're getting in the right direction. May not be, contending in the Western Conference, but are looking bright and young. And when this Western Conference kind of fizzles out in the next year or two, they'll be right at the top. Alrighty, and then the next game we're going to get into here is the showcase between the Thunder and the Nuggets here, where the Thunder came out and won 102 to 87 versus this Denver Nuggets team. And the Thunder here kind of proved and cemented to the world that they are the number one seed in the Western Conference, one that I also thought that they were, but really put them in that front running seat going against a Denver Nuggets team that, yes, did lose some depth in their role players, but still has the best player in the NBA, in my opinion, Nikola Jokic. They went out there and manhandled them specifically with one of their big caveats and new additions in Isaiah Hartenstein being out, even though he's one of the better players to guard against Nikola Jokic. So for this Thunder team, as we saw, Aaron Wiggins looked very good off the bench, 15.6 rebounds, looking like one of the better players in the league and on a cheap deal. 77% shooting from the field, absolutely fantastic for him. But the main storyline from this team is that duo and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists with 2 steals and 3 blocks, shooting 45% from the field, 33% from 3. Good numbers from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander right there. A player that I think is going to be in the front running of this MVP conversation or be in that race. He is definitely deserving of it in showcasing his skills already in the first matchup. And Chet Holmgren, 25, 14, 5 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks going against Nikola Jokic in a big man group that is very, very talented. Chet Holmgren is cementing himself as one of those dudes that you're going to have to keep an eye on and is going to be one of these future building blocks of the league. And the Thunder, like we all know, did this on for a reason, but gathered all these draft picks to be able to just strike and make their moves and make their right selections, and they've already done it. Acquiring SGA, now drafting Chet Holmgren, drafting Jalen Williams, and they're only going to continue to draft better prospects, draft players that can fit in, help out with their roles. And Chet is going to cement himself as one of these big men of the future. Man, oh man, has he been looking good for them. Now, when you look at the Nuggets here side of things, like we kind of mentioned, Nuggets had Jokic 16, 12, and 13, 2 steals, 1 block, doing it all, trying to keep this team in it. But unfortunately, Jamal Murray shooting 30% from the field, only scoring 12 points as your secondary scorer, and Michael Porter Jr. shooting 29% as your third scorer is not going to help. Christian Braun, though, 53% from the field, 16 points. He did look good. But for this Nuggets team, it's just going to have to come down to defense. Just going to have to come down to these young players kind of realizing what their role is and how they're going to step up and get ready. And I think it might take a couple games for this Nuggets team to kind of catch up to speed and maybe some of their players to kind of find out their roles. But I think by the second half of the season, they might be a team that kind of increases and moves up their rank, because they have gotten their chemistry down pat, and other teams have maybe made some moves to kind of make climbs in the Western Conference, while the Nuggets stayed pat and obviously kept their chemistry together. And now let's look at that last game, ladies and gentlemen. The nail biting game, the one where the Timberwolves took on the Sacramento Kings, and the Kings in their home opener had a devastating loss, 117 to 115. Here, a nail biter, close one, back to back, going down to the wire. And for the Timberwolves, I am going to take back my words because Julius Randle absolutely sliced and diced this Sacramento Kings front court and was scoring all over them. 33 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 13 for 17 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3-point range. Julius Randle, ladies and gentlemen, came out and showcased what he could bring to this Timberwolves squad after getting talked by Rui Hachimura and getting basically put out there as a clown on social media. I'm really liking that bounce back from Julius Randle. Love that fueling of the fire. Anthony Edwards as well, 32, 7, and 4, 10 for 24 from the field, 6 for 15 from 3-point range. Fortunately, Conley is still having these shooting struggles, but still can be that playmaker. But Naz Reid off the bench came up big for this team. 19 points, 13 rebounds once again, and another player that I think needs to be a key integral piece. Unfortunately for this Wolves team, similar to the with Karl Anthony Towns, I know they had to get another big man to kind of replace that hole, and with getting Julius Randle, that made sense. But I think Naz Reid can start and should start. So unfortunately for the Timberwolves, I think that they kind of have a little bit of a discrepancy in their forward position where maybe they should be looking to kind of trade Julius Randle or trade some other pieces to get some better guards to help out their scoring and playmaking, while they also look to get a backup forward in return, so they can start Nas Reed, give him that extension, and showcase his true ability. Because I think if you have Nas Reed, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert out there, you have a pretty solid squad. Regardless if you run Dante DiVincenzo or Mike Conley, I think both of those players will be able to set up or have an Ant run the point guard, and you'll be fine with that offense. Ultimately, the Timberwolves did bounce back, looked better in this game versus Sacramento than they did in their inaugural opener when they took on the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's all you want to see from a Timberwolves team. Now with the Kings, they did have some big players come out and perform. Sabonis 24 and 8, shooting 61% from the field. Keegan Murray 23 and 11, shooting 47% from the field and 50% from three. And DeRozan in his home opener 26 8 and 2 with one steal, shooting 39% from the field and 0% from 3 point range. That's a little bit of a discrepancy there. Got to be able to hit those 3 point shots. Got to be able to space the floor because as we know, this Sacramento team with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis is key running that pick and roll and scoring in the paint. But needing that added 3 point shooting is necessary. That's why players like Malik Monk come off the bench and deliver 17 points with 4 assists, 66% from the field, 50% from three. But unfortunately, Kevin Herter did not deliver. 1 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3 point range. Got to do better than that from Herter. But Fox, 15 with 11 assists, 42% from the field, 1 for 4 from 3 point range. Like I said, Kings just got to get a little bit better on the offensive side. Got to get that rhythm kind of flowing from 3 point range. But if they can find it, if they can get it going, I think this team can be competitive in this Western Conference. And as we saw, taking on a Timberwolves team that looks really good as well, they can match up right against them. So do not fret. Even though the Kings did lose this game, I'm still high on them. I still think that they can make some noise in the Western Conference. And I might have been a little too low on them in my early predictions here. But like I said, those are the 4 games that happened yesterday. The Celtics beat the Wizards. The Mavericks beat the Spurs, the Timberwolves beat the Kings, and the Thunder beat the Nuggets. So every team has now played a NBA season game, and now we have more games coming towards us. Obviously, as we know, there's going to be a game basically every single day leading up to All Star break. We're excited. We're going to be breaking it down, having fun talking about basketball. Like I said, when more injury stuff comes out, when more trade stuff comes out, we'll have more videos talking about those topics. But right now, we've just been kind of breaking down the games, kind of giving my thoughts, my analysis. Like I said, I'm really excited to see the Celtics team. They look very, very dominant, 2-0. With the Wizards, 0-1 start. Do look like they're going to be at the bottom of the East, but I do like that their coach Brian Keefe is letting their young players play, and we get to see that youth movement kind of get started in Washington. Then, when looking at that Dallas versus San Antonio game, nice to see Wemby out looking like he could be like a dynamic freak. Like to see him do a little bit better on the offensive side, but still, that Spurs team is still young and enticing, and this Mavericks team once again, looks like it's going to be a top tier team in this Western Conference with its new additions. They definitely added some more firepower that was definitely needed from the playoffs. Then we dive into that Thunder versus Nuggets game. Thunder looking like the top tier team in the West. Maybe the Nuggets need some more gelling or some better 3 point shooting to be able to get into a game. Maybe that's some stuff they need to work on. And then with the Kings and Timberwolves, like we said, Timberwolves bounce back with Julius Randle finding his role and finding how he can succeed in this Timberwolves offense with maybe some questionable marks at that point guard position, but also looking at a player in or looking at a team in Sacramento, which is still young, still enticing, still needs to get some chemistry going. But once again, if they can get some threes falling like that Nuggets team, they could have won this game. So ultimately, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. How do you guys feel down below about these teams? Personally, are you guys high on these teams, low on these teams? What are your analyzations from the games? Let me know down below in the comment section. Once again, you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your support through the revitalization of this channel. And it's been super, super supportive, and I'm really, really appreciative of it. Once again, I'm Bruce Velez. Have a great rest of your day, everyone, and peace out.